This is Kenny Tan. Welcome to Real Estate License in 14 Weeks. This is episode 38 of Starting from Zero. Today we start on chapter 13. If you like my video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell for further notifications, and share this video with your friends. Market value. Market value can be described in 4 words. Willing seller, willing buyer. That means that the seller is not under any kind of pressure to sell. A buyer is not under any kind of pressure to buy. It also means that the seller has to deliver full disclosure to the buyer about the conditions of the property. In the case of a willing seller and willing buyer, we get fair market value, Next, assessed value. What is assessed value? Assessed value is a value of a property arrived by the county assessor for purposes of assessing the property for property taxes. That's what assessed value is. Assessed value is not equal to market value, so you cannot use the assessed value as a comparable. The 4 economic factors that affect value of a property. They are demand, utility, scarcity, and transferability. That stands for DUST. So the easiest way for exam purposes to remember the 4 economic factors will be to remember the word dust. So what is demand? Demand is just demand. It's a human desire for a property. That's what demand means. What is U? U stands for utility. Utility means the ability of a property to be useful. The property must be useful and have the ability to satisfy a human want, desire, or need. If a property cannot satisfy a human desire, want, or need, then it has no utility. It would have a lower value. S stands for scarcity. If a property is very scarce, like in the case when we have a very low inventory in the housing market, that means there are more buyers than there are homes that are for sale. So scarcity is an issue. So when inventory is low, when the properties are scarce, the price goes up. Lastly, transferability. It means that the property must be marketable in terms of its title. Title must be marketable. It means that it can be transferred to another buyer without that buyer having fear that it has no good title. Now let's talk about the basic forces that influence value. First, physical and environmental forces. It talks about the natural barriers for future development, such as ocean or rivers or lakes. Primary transportation systems, whether or not this area is accessible to primary transportation, whether it has such a system. And then it also talks about the future development of the immediate area, the nature and the quality of the immediate area. Next, social ideals and standards. It's referring to population growth or decline, age distributions, attitude toward education, recreation, and things like that, and lifestyle. Economic forces. This one talks about the population's purchasing power versus the supply and demand characteristics. It talks about the wage level, the employment situation, and so forth. And as far as supply goes, it talks about the construction cost, new development, and available properties. Political and environmental forces. This one talks about regulation, fire and police protection, and national, state, and the local fiscal policies. And national, state, and local fiscal policies. All of these governmental forces would affect the value of the property. There are other factors that influence value. Amenities, conditions of agreeable living. What does that mean? It means that the neighborhood has gas station, movie houses, restaurants, shopping area, hospital, library, and so forth. These are what called amenities. So the more amenities a community have, the better it is in terms of property value. Blighted area refers to an area where there is a deteriorating property condition, such as in the city of Detroit when Detroit was going through a very difficult time. It is possible to buy a property for $5,000 because Detroit was in a blighted area. That is a classic example of how a blighted area could have a strong impact on the value of the property. Building restrictions and zones. Building restriction may increase or decrease the value of the property. Zoning from residential to commercial may actually increase the value of a property. Character of soil. Soft soil may affect the contractor's ability to properly build a home, for example. Topsoil may affect the ability of a soil to produce crops. Heavy soil, heavy clay refers to a situation where percolation or permeability of the soil may affect drainage problems. So this character of soil is very important and may affect the value of a property. Character of business climate. Large cities has a great demand for apartments, commercial buildings, and other type of building structures that are in greater demand in larger cities. So business climate definitely has an impact on the value of a property. Conspicuousness refers to businesses that are located in an area where it is visible to the consumer, such as gas stations, movie houses, theaters, restaurants, hotels, motels. And they generally want to be located at a corner lot. And we also call that the corner influence. Directional growth. Generally, property values tend to move up in an area where the population is moving, where there is a increase in the population. Exposure. Resort operators normally do not like windy areas because people that go to resorts don't want to be sitting down in the pool or at the pool where the wind is blowing in your face all the time. Location. Location. So if a property is close to major transportation like an airport or international airport, it is within 10 minutes drive, it's very close to the airport, certainly it will have greater value than one where you have to drive 2 hours just to go to the airport. Next, we're going to talk about grades. Grades talks about how level or how hilly the property is. Generally, if it's too level, it's not pleasing to the sight because it's monotonous. We call that monotony. However, if it's too steep, it makes it very expensive to develop the property because it has a higher construction cost. So in the exam, you're often asked, what if it's rolling hills? Rolling hills is different from steep slope. Rolling hills is actually very pleasing to the eyes. Actually, it's more preferable over a flat land because flat land is actually pretty boring. That's why I said flat land is monotonous. Obsolescence. Obsolescence refers to the decrease in value due to changes in architecture, type of construction, and changes to the uses of the neighboring property. Orientation. Orientation talks about the placing of a home in a lot to resolve things like exposure to the sun, noise from the properties, and privacy. So orientation is also important and affects the value of a property. Plottage. What is plottage? The easiest way to remember plottage is 1 + 1 is greater than 2. Well, what does that really mean? Let's say there are two parcels of land, two square parcels of land. Each consists of 1 acre next to each other. And it is at first owned by two separate owners. And by itself, each one of them is worth $1 million by two separate owners. But if one of the owners purchased the other owner's property, what will be the new value of the property? Well, it is not 1 + 1, it is not 2 million, but it is greater than 2 million. Now, this is particularly significant because for agricultural land, the bigger the lot, the easiest it is to operate expensive equipment in a bigger agricultural lot than a smaller agricultural lot. So definitely by combining properties that are adjacent to each other, there is an effect of increase in value just by combining the two properties, and we call that plottage. Private restrictions. Sometimes builders and developers will place certain type of restriction to maintain the value of the property. For example, a developer might limit new construction in the community to be no more than 1 story. So second story construction would not be allowed in the community. The purpose of that is to help maintain the values of the property in the development. Size. The width or the depth of the property may affect the value of the property. Generally, most buyers prefer wider lot than narrow lot. So you may have two parcels of the same square footage, but one of them has a wider lot, the other one has a narrower lot. So the one that has a wider lot tends to be preferred by buyers. Shape also influences value. A rectangular lot that is square is generally preferred over a lot that is irregular in shape. Thoroughfare conditions. Thoroughfare conditions refer to the fact that the property is located at a location where there's a lot of traffic flow. It is important to businesses such as gas stations. So thoroughfare will actually help improve the value of this type of property if it is intended to be used as a gas station, for example. So generally, gas station, they want to have high traffic flow, but they don't want congestion because congestion will actually affect the value of the property in a negative way. Utilities. Utilities refer to things like telephone, water, gas, and sewer. The adequacy, the cost, the quality, and availability of utilities will have an impact on the value of a property. That's utilities in the plural. Next, utility in the singular. That stands for capacity of the property to produce income. So the utility of the property will affect its value. Now in the exam, sometimes you're tested, you might see an exam question that talks about the differences between utilities and utility. If it's in the plural, it's talking about gas, water, sewer, and telephone. But if it's the singular, it's talking about the ability of the property to produce income or the capacity of the property to produce income. Unearned increment. Unearned increment talks about the fact that the owner of a property doesn't have to spend any money on the property, and yet it increases in value simply due to population increase. So it's like being at the right place at the right time. So for example, if you go to Palo Alto, a shed that was bought in 50 years ago for $50,000 is probably worth about $1,500,000 today. That is the effect of unearned increment. This is the end of episode 38. See you next time.